All right. We're live. Welcome to Dorsey's Resource. First, as usual, before we get started, I like to give a disclaimer. This video is for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. Please understand everyone's individual circumstance or situation may be different. It's up to every individual competent person to please do his or her homework and research regarding the information being discussed. This information is not to be construed as legal advice. In the event you feel you need to seek a competent professional, it is encouraged that you do so at one's own leisure. Dorsey's Resource is not liable or responsible for any misuse of this information. With that being said, all rights are reserved. Now, to get into the topic of the video, the topic is going to be about important information schools and universities don't teach, or you could say never teach. I want to go over some things that I learned about the private sector, and also, if I have enough time, to give you guys a sneak peek if once I'm able to start the Patreon account, which that will allow me to go into more details. I'll explain why later on if I have enough time. I am on a time restraint. So without further ado, some things I want to discuss, and you guys are welcome to chime in as well, even though this isn't necessarily an open Q&A, but as always, feel free to chime in if you would like to do so. So to get right into the topic, there's important information I've gone over before. Darren Jackson says, appreciate the advice, Mr. D. Appreciate you for following, Darren Jackson, being a subscriber. Thank you. Some things I want to go over, some information that I've gone over before that college, universities, and schools don't teach. I asked an elder some years ago about a particular individual at this event that I attended. How was this individual able to learn this type of information, whereas most of the people that live in the general public do not know? People who are regular U.S. citizens that just go to work every day, just do as they're told, don't question anything. So I wanted to know more. I was inquisitive. So this elder, this was some years back, because I'm an inquisitive person myself, I ask pertinent questions, that gets right, to the meat and potatoes. So I want to help you guys out. I get some of the same questions, and I know you all are curious about, is this private sector stuff real? Because a lot of times there's people who will try to accuse this type of information of being a conspiracy theory. So he told me to look up Pastor Lindsey Williams. I'm not trying to get religious on you guys. I'm just using Pastor Lindsey Williams as a reference. He was somebody who came out as a whistleblower years ago, where he lived with the elites of the world at the Alaskan pipeline. He was summoned there as a chaplain. And you can look up information on the story that he tells. There's some other YouTubers out there. There's a guy I follow down in Florida, J-Snip4, who's done videos about Pastor Lindsey Williams and others. But Pastor Lindsey Williams still does have some information on YouTube. If you're not familiar with him, you can easily go look up his work. I recommend, if you do have the money, if you can, try to support him. Some of these people have risked their lives to share this information, by the way. Not saying him per se, because he was actually given information, and this has been verified from very high up people in the upper echelon. My friend refers to as the shadow people, by the way. And there is evidence. There was a governor years ago, well, a guy, he was running for governor, he was running for governor of Nevada. His name was Aaron Russo. You want to look up Aaron Russo. This documentary may still be on YouTube. It's called Freedom to Fascism. It's called Aaron Russo. He did a documentary. It's called America, Freedom to Fascism. It was a documentary. He went around, he asked questions, and he was also interviewed by people down the line, a radio talk show host. And some people believe that Aaron Russo was killed, but I don't know if that's true, because after releasing some of this information, he died of cancer so many months later, and some people believe that he was murdered, and I don't have any evidence to back that. However, he tells the story that during the time he was running for governor, he was contacted by Nick Rockefeller, or Nicholas Rockefeller's lawyer. This is a true story, and he did a documentary. He's actually produced some Hollywood movies. I heard one called Changing Lanes or something like that came out some years ago with Eddie Murphy. I'm not really familiar. Some of this stuff was like before my time, but it was shared with me years ago. So this is still kind of on topic, important information, and you might want to know, what does this have to do with Pastor Lindsey Williams? I'm going over, this is whistleblowers, people who've come out. This has been verified, because not everything is a conspiracy theory. There's people out there that'll try to shut down this information because they don't want you to know. They don't want the left hand to know what the right hand is doing, and vice versa. So they'll say, there's nothing over here, don't look that way. They'll just try to easily dismiss it. So, and sometimes you can detect when people talk like that. That's ways to detect if they're gatekeepers or minions trying to cover something up. Not saying in always every situation. There's just some people that live in the regular population and the general public that are regular citizens that just have never been taught this information or do not know. So we can't knock or accuse everybody of being the deep state minion. So just keep in mind there's balance. Alan Michael in the chat says, good info. Appreciate you, Alan Michael. Thank you for joining. So to just kind of go over the reason I rehash this information, nowadays, because of the advent of smartphones, you have people that are searching for information. I'm discovering new people that are waking up. I've had people contact me in the past on my channel, and I've gone actually to their profiles, looked at them, and they thanked me in many cases or had questions, and they wanted to honestly know. So I'm here as a messenger. You guys have all the power. I'm simply a messenger, a researcher, just simply sharing the information from my research. And I do give a disclaimer as well. So you guys, I always say that I'm so confident in what I'm going over. If you don't believe me, please check the validity of the information and look it up for yourself. And you'll be quite astonished, in my opinion, I believe, for the information I'm going over. So Pastor Lindsey Williams, this elder, to finish the story, was going over with me. I said, how did this guy know this information? Or how is it certain people in this population that are upper echelon people, how are they taught this exclusive information? And he said, check out Pastor Lindsey Williams' documentary called Secrets of the Elite. And I did a video on that already. My videos are re-uploaded since I'm back on YouTube. You have to go back, click on the video section on my playlist of my channel, and I did a video talking about that specifically. Sometimes there's things I might have forgot about. If you go back and watch my older videos, that you can get some insight as well. So he said, check out Pastor Lindsey Williams' DVD once again called Secrets of the Elite. And I said, okay. I checked it out, and it provided a lot of insight. I never thought of it, but Pastor Lindsey Williams stated that some of these elite people, who a good friend of mine refers to as shadow people, as he calls them, stated that many of them were taught by their parents. They were sent to private schools by invitation only. Some of them, and the reason I've showed in a previous video that I've done, where I went over the book Bloodlines of the Illuminati, and I might be working on doing a redo of that particular video. I think I need to do an update, because once again, there's people that always try to dismiss this as conspiracy theory. And I want to tell you, this is not, remember, theory is something that's theoretical. There are facts that have happened. There's reality, like how I'm speaking to you in real time right now at this very moment, how it's 12:50 a.m. in this moment. This is reality. That's why you have reality TV shows or reality TV, so people can get like an inside look as to what's happening and not just necessarily a scripted story. So I want to assure you, there is a lot of information out there, and this is important information that is not talked about or has been covered up, that has actually happened, factual information that's occurred. So Pastor Lindsey Williams went over in this documentary called Secrets of the Elite that many of them are taught by their parents. Many of them are sent to private schools by invitation only. For example, many of them study out of encyclopedias, etymology dictionaries. So their vocabulary level, their grammar is immaculate. So compared to the average person, that's why the rest of us, when you speak to some of these people, might be dumbed down. And some of them can actually disguise, or have found ways, they blend right in with the population, because some of these ways that they operate in commerce are hiding in plain sight. That's why it's difficult when you try to report some of this information. If you try to go to the police or private investigators, they're not really familiar with this type of information. That's why I would suggest you would have to talk to detectives. Detectives are like other forms of police where they're not really out in the field, but they just do investigative work, research. That's what Q was like in the movie James Bond. That's kind of like what I do. Is I do a lot of research. I go more in depth. I ask questions. I brainstorm. I think, I've got notes with me right now. So, and then I consult with friends of mine and ask their opinion to get other perspectives. It's like playing devil's advocate. And being able to have the ability to play devil's advocate allows you to, have an open mind and to research things that may not necessarily be comfortable in your own perspective. It's important to think at things, look at things outside of the box. So you just won't be one-sided or have tunnel vision. It won't just be one-dimensional. So this elder, I asked questions. Kudos to him. I won't say his name to protect his identity. He provided a lot of insight, and I appreciate him throughout the years. I've asked different questions, and he's very well studied, by the way. And this is how he's not the only person, but there's other people, many other people that I know. I have friends who are historians. And he's met one of my other friends. They both study history very in depth. And I tell them this is their discipline, their skill set. They're a lot more advanced than I am, but they also acknowledge areas that I'm strong at. And that shows how humble we are. Because some people, are not able, don't have the ability to do this because there's a lot of envy, jealousy. Unfortunately, that's a part of human nature, character traits. So to show you, you're getting well-balanced, fair information from me that is unbiased as well. There's times I do have to get political when I'm going over this information to expose certain things, but I want to assure you the information that I do go over is factual. That's why I mentioned names in this instance of real people, documentaries that you can research and find the validity behind. Also want to go over, it was mentioned that I know this elder was not lying to me or making certain things up, him being, as far as checking his credibility, because what private investigators, detectives do sometimes have people take a lie detector test to sometimes check the credibility. And a way to naturally do this is when I know that if it's other information I'm coming across is matching up with what that person told me, or the same thing. So I've checked newspaper articles, and throughout the years, other economists, those are people like Mike Maloney, Jim Rogers, Robert Kiyosaki. There's numerous others out there, Bill Pony, that I like checking out, Greg Hunter, there's a plethora of economists out there, Rick Rule from Asset Spot Management. It's been a minute since I've listened to some of these people. Some of this stuff is even above, my level of knowledge. I'm still doing research and I still have to learn, but I have an open mind. So I noticed that when he told me some years ago, JP Morgan Chase was buying silver behind the scenes. Also found out that they are buying cryptocurrencies, but they're buying large amounts of precious metals, and it was leaked out or came out by Bix Weir. Hope I'm saying his name correctly. Is it Bill Bix Weir, I think is his name. I could, forgive me if I'm messing it up, but some of you are familiar with who he is. He's like an economist. He goes over cryptocurrencies a lot. He interviewed Cliff High from the Webbot Report. And he's talked about in a lot of some of his previous videos, he's confirmed that behind the scenes, it's been stated, and by other economists as well, that somehow, I don't know how they find this information out, that JP Morgan Chase has been found to be shorting silver or been artificially suppressing the price down to a certain amount. But they say eventually one day the bubble it has to pop. Now, by no means, I did give a disclaimer. Am I a financial expert? Am I going to attempt to try to go in depth? But I'm giving you guys information and sharing with you this story, how to confirm that this elder who was sharing information with me wasn't just lying or making this stuff up. And that's how ways you're able to detect. I'm giving you guys a skill set that I have is when you cross-reference information with other people, and if they're saying the same thing and their stuff is matching up and it's multiple people, 9 times out of 10, the information is going to be accurate. I also came out earlier this year that a cargo ship that was owned by a hedge fund by JP Morgan Chase was caught with tons of drugs on board. This is a true story. It was reported on, maybe not as heavily by the mainstream media, but I did find out several mainstream media outlets did report on it. I even saw the post on Facebook eventually, but I found out from alternative media people on YouTube, or independent media people as they're called, who are often accused of being conspiracy theorists. Mighty funny, they're oftentimes being accused of being conspiracy theorists, but I found out from them first, because I follow other people on YouTube, by the way, just so you guys know. Let you guys know. So I do research, I cross-reference information, and this doesn't take rocket science, and this is not difficult to find out. So this was reported on. There was an article by some mainstream media outlets did report on it, as well as independent media outlets, that JP Morgan also they had owned a cargo ship through a hedge fund, and it was found some particular law enforcement group out, I think on the East Coast, I can't remember which state it's in. You can find the article online still. They found drugs on board. And I heard something like that happen years ago with Bank of America too, by the way. So I just don't want to make it seem like I'm trying to pick on Chase, because they fall up under the Federal Reserve, by the way. And I won't go into all of that right now. But another thing, this was shared with me last year by a sister that I was working with, who told me to look up the owner who started cryptocurrencies. And I discovered there was an article that JP Morgan Chase purchased a patent back in the late...
All units, radio check.
Okay, hold on, guys. I'll be back.
That's good. Copy. Radio check complete. 0100.
Okay, thanks for holding, guys. I'm back. As you all know, as I say, as usual, I am at the slavery plantation, but we're doing good so far with the information I was going over. So I was working with this sister last year. She told me to look up who invented the cryptocurrencies, and I have some new information I discovered, which I'm thinking about. I'm saving that maybe for Patreon. There was an update. Because there wasn't this guy, the Japanese guy, they say was Satoshi Nakamoto. There was a guy that they arrested in California. He was an American. He was Japanese descent, and he said at the time when he was arrested, one of the statements he released, he said he doesn't know. He believes somebody made that name up. Come to find out, there was an Australian guy, and there's like an update. Some of you guys might already know there was actually a case going on. And he says he was sent out by an elite group of people. And I said, what a coincidence. Wow. You know, very interesting. Because there are those that try to argue when I was invited a couple years ago to that TDA movement that broke out with the people using the secret accounts, and people were getting reversals. And one of the things, I will be able to go more in depth once I start a Patreon account, because I've been asked questions. And on those calls a couple years ago, I didn't hold back. I answered questions. I did this for free. You know, and I felt, honored that they invited me, and they saw my channel and saw the video that I had that had went viral that I had did on the black card from that seminar that I had attended. And kudos to Yusuf L. He shared my video, by the way. So big shout out to Yusuf, as well as some other people as well, other subscribers, content creators. I appreciate you all as well. You guys do have a lot of power through word of mouth and sharing information. And those of you all who did share the video, but I removed the video out of respect to take it down for the individual when I was contemplating on returning to that event earlier this year. But that I won't focus on in that video too much, but that's to give you an idea. That's a preview or sneak peek at some of the things I'll be able to talk about or go more in depth with the Patreon account. I'm thinking about starting off with the basic level $5 pledge. Higher than that, I'm contemplating maybe some people normally have I think 3 levels to them. Highest level will be where you guys will be able to meet me if I decide to have like a higher tier level with a pledge support. I will give you the ability to meet me, whatever background, whoever you are. I'm open to talking to anyone and answering any questions to the best of my ability, and it will be a win-win situation. That way, I'll be able to go more in depth, answer questions. I'll be able to also show documents, evidence. One of the things I'm working on in the meantime, just to give you guys a heads up, you might be wondering what's taking that so long. I have to figure those things out between the tier system. Also, my internet situation has changed, and I have to work on that because I want to have more bandwidth for streaming. But I've kind of figured that instance because in order to do screen capture videos, those are videos where I can show you guys evidence, by the way, just giving you a sneak preview for some of the videos I would like to do for Patreon for paid subscribers once I am able to start that up down the road, God willing. I haven't started it yet, but that is my plan. Hopefully down the road in the making, it will allow me to do like webinars or go more in depth and show you things in real time on the computer screen, like a screen capture, which is different than the videos or the types of videos that I've done lately where I'm vlogging showing my own face, by the way. So to get back on track, I found out that when I looked up the information, the sister was telling me to research that JP Morgan purchased a patent for an anonymous currency some years ago. I don't know if the article's still online, but I did read it. And it brought some things into question because it's been discovered by some sources that they were buying silver and cryptocurrencies behind the scenes. And then it was an article got put out not too long ago. They had a cargo ship that got caught with tons of drugs on board, was owned by a hedge fund. Now, you got to really think that this stuff going on at a high level. And then remember a while back, it was an article came out, the CEO of Chase, Jamie Dimon, had poo-pooed that his daughter had bought some cryptocurrencies. Then it came out like a week later. I thought it was the overlay for the underlay anyway. It was just a dog and pony show. Then it came out like a week or two later that he had purchased some. So he comes out that his daughter buys something. He poo-pooed it, but then he turned around and bought or got some himself. But, if you piece together all this other stuff I mentioned, and he's the CEO of Chase. Just something to think about there. I'll let you guys, put two and two together. Some other information that's come out previously. This is like older information. It's been stated by a particular troll gatekeeper out there who, for this time, their name is not worth mentioning, but I want to say they try to often poo-poo this person and say their information is not credible, and I'm here to tell you this person is highly accurate. Please look up G. Edward Griffin. Look up G. Edward Griffin, the creature from Jekyll Island. He did a lot of research about the banking system, the creation of the Federal Reserve System, and I want to assure you this information is highly accurate. Please look up G. Edward Griffin. This is information still on topic, important information schools, universities will never teach you, or they won't go as in depth the way that I'm going in depth to break this down. So I'm kind of like giving you guys a cheat sheet or helping you guys when you research this information down the road in your spare time. Please look this up. And you can't be a weekend warrior. This will help connect the pieces. Also, Judge Anna Von Ritz. Look up, she's like a common law judge out of Alaska. Please look up Anna Von Ritz. Her information is authentic and accurate as well. Also, Judge Dale, his information about the straw man, which is the in lingus in the court system. That's called the in lingus. You can look that up. It's a Latin term. They speak in legalese. It's also, they're using elements of Roman ecclesiastical law, capitis diminutio maxima. That deals with your all caps, where they've captured the name. This is why it's not a coincidence when people die on tombstones, their name is in all caps, because years ago the concept was during Roman times or when Caesar was in power, that under these particular laws, that a person that was a slave that was captured, meant they displayed their name in all capital letters. By the way, they still use some of the same cryptic code and the way there's rules to the grammar to the English language, believe it or not. And in the court system, this is a secret for a fact, they speak an entirely different language. I have a friend, he had a girlfriend who was going to school to study for the bar, and she got a Black's Law legal dictionary, which is specifically designed for people who are studying for the bar exam, going to legal school. And I found out they have an abridged version, because nowadays they want some of their lawyers or lower level people learning this high level stuff that I'm going over with you to keep it compartmentalized. Now, by no means am I a lawyer, but at the same time, some of the information that I've gone over, some information they don't know about, and I can explain how why certain lawyers and judges are privy to this information and why some are not. They keep it compartmentalized, by the way. And then with the Patreon account, I can go more in depth talking about that. But just up front, I've already shared this in some of my previous videos. You just have to find which one. I can't tell you offhand. But one of the reasons they call it there's lawyers that go to school for equity. Remember, there's different types of lawyers. Like you have lawyers that deal with accidents or criminal defense lawyers. There's different fields or subjects that they go into. And there's certain lawyers, they don't learn this type of information that I'm going over. It's a particular field of study. And some say that it's only taught, I still have yet to confirm this, that some say this type of information that lawyers do go to school to learn this high level stuff is only taught at certain college universities such as Yale, Cambridge, Harvard, Princeton, maybe some other ones that deals with like common law trust, etc. There's another term I could say that'll be giving you all a lot, so okay. So to get further into understanding and going over credible people, I went over Judge Anavarich, Judge Dale. Their information is highly accurate. Also, David Windmiller. You want to research his information on quantum language and syntax grammar. Please look up David Windmiller. His information is accurate. The court system on the legal judicial system uses legalese, which I mentioned earlier. And under the statutory side, remember, and there's also a private side, which people don't understand. I won't go as in depth, but just to show, statute deals with the codes. It's not that in the state of Michigan, there was a law that was given to me. You don't have to have a license to use to practice the law, believe it or not, even though they use a contract to lure people in, by the way, based on how you contract. It says David Windmiller passed away over a year ago. Rest in peace. Yes, I heard that about that. I wasn't sure. Rest in peace to him if that is true. Sorry to hear that. By the way, I heard that before. So rest in peace, to David Windmiller if that is true. Went over. Okay, legalese is a specialized language in the legal profession that's used to replace plain talk. So in case some of you are wondering why in the court system, some people go in there, they don't understand, or the procedures that they use. And it's like very Masonic. If you know people that are Masons or Eastern Stars, they use cryptic code where the women do an Eastern Star symbol. This was a brother shared at a meeting. He debated some judges in the court system. He was a Mason himself, but he mentioned these private classes I used to attend years ago, that there was one judge, she got scared because he was sharp with the law, the way he was coming back, defending himself in the court. And he said she started throwing out, these are distress signals, as an Eastern Star. That's how I know about this, by the way, that these are distress. So they have other symbols that means different things. I won't get into that. They do have books that you can purchase. That's why I went over in the past on signs and symbols. There was a book by Tex Mars called Codex Magica. I did a couple videos, one with the music. I did a version without the music where I went over that. There's also other sub books that go over with those symbols and things. But to show evidence that there was a class I attended some years ago, there was another brother, he was there and he was telling a story. And I can tell you the location because I have a good memory. And it was when I moved back from Florida back in 2007. It was at the Blightbusters in Detroit. They were allowing us, the group that I studied with, to use a facility. It was like on the 7 Mile and Grand River area. Over in that area, there was like the Blightbusters, one of the buildings we were using, where when we would come to the class privately, we would give it like a donation. Sometimes they would let you in if you didn't have the money, and that's how I would learn the information privately, in case you are wondering how I learned this exclusive information. And I was one of the youngest people back then. It shows you I was inquisitive. I was hungry. So I did pay my dues in researching this information. Just to give you a little background, if you're wondering about how did I learn this stuff, what's my credibility? I had a friend years ago. He reminds me of this many years later. He says, man, he used to tell me when sometimes it would be storming or the weather was bad, and he saw my drive, I would still be trying to catch the bus to make it to these meetings before I had a car. That's how hungry I was for the information, by the way. And it's paid off years later where I've learned about the private sector. This is how I have an understanding of things that other people in the general public do not have. To tell you, this stuff is real, by the way. So I want to assure you, this is not conspiracy theory. Their research is credible. The people that I've gone over. So I want to assure you. And one of the things with Patreon, if I have the ability, God willing, to start a Patreon account, you'll be able to get the reassurance from me based on my experience and through my trials and error. Or if you guys have questions about certain individuals to study under, I'll be able to give you my opinion about different people that studied in the redemption movement. I can rank how credible they are or what works and what doesn't work. Throughout the years, I'm one of a few people that's seen that. So it's like I'm similar to an analyst. How, for example, on CNN, how years ago you would have political analysts, or during the elections, They bring on political analysts to evaluate that have skill sets in particular areas. Well, in this area, I would be able to go over, there's different processes that are set up, but I have that knowledge that I learned throughout the years from studying different processes, different methods. I will be able to provide insight with that, by the way. So just to give you guys a heads up, that's a sneak peek at what I would be able to go over more in depth. Other important information is in the movie, The Wizard of Oz. Did you guys know before the movie came out, there was a book and there was a series of books very similar to the movie Hunger Games. You know, that movie had books. It was based off a book by Susan Collins, but years ago, Wizard of Oz was actually based off a book, and they encrypted some of this information within the movie Wizard of Oz, by the way. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. There's information you can look up online. That movie is coded where Dorothy, when she wore the ruby slippers, that symbolized blood, your wet ink signature. But however, before the movie came out, when the book was written, she wore silver slippers. And I found out with the silver slippers, what that symbolized is in the movie, they changed the story to where she wore red ruby slippers, like her heels that she was wearing on her feet. And when the book was written, the reason she wore silver slippers, when she followed the yellow brick road, that symbolized the silver following the gold out the country. When she wore the silver slip, because the yellow brick road symbolized gold. And Toto was an Italian word for means all. Remember the Wicked Witch, she wanted Toto. And it's the tally when you total something up, because this gets into accounting, but this is cryptic code. And Oz in Italian means ounce. It's with gold and silver is measured in ounces. By the way, Oz is ounces. When you look up the translate, and in the court system, it's Latin for ounces. So Oz stood for ounces. It was like an acronym abbreviation. So to show you the Latin, this is cryptic because this is around the time period where the Federal Reserve was in the making, where Edward Griffin, who I went over earlier, you guys, to show you I'm connecting the pieces because I've already studied this information. And he did the book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, not to spoil it for you all, but he goes over how they met in privacy and worked on this information. But that movie was symbolic, by the way, with the Wizard of Oz. And there is information you can look up. And the Tin Man, for example, stood for like your tax identification number, Tin Man. And the Straw Man stood for the artificial person or the legal fiction person, the artificial being. The lion, the cowardly lion, stood for that represents Americans that lose their courage and standing up against the evil cabal, against the bankers behind the scenes. By the way, that's where the real power lies at. That's a whole nother discussion, is with the bankers. So to go over more information before I shut things down, by the way, I know you guys are like, wow, this is some action-packed information right here. And I did see someone in the chat earlier I wanted to give a shout out to earlier, CJ. Big shout out to you. Love the information because I didn't read your message earlier. Appreciate you, CJ. Thank you for joining. So I just wanted to show you I'm paying attention. Want to acknowledge you guys in the chat section. To go over former Governor Jesse Ventura. He used to be the governor, I believe, of Minnesota. Some years ago, he had a show that aired on True TV called Conspiracy Theory, interestingly enough. You want to look up that show. He had some good episodes on there. There was one in particular he did that was, I heard, removed or banned by Homeland Security because it was touching on some heavy stuff. It was where he had met with Alex Jones in that particular episode where they showed like the FEMA coffins. Because down in Georgia, it's been stated that on the Georgia Guidestones, they have stated that they want to reduce the world's population down to a significant portion, which is very startling, as some mention, but shows that no matter which group you're on, whether you're left, right, black, white, you know, whatever ethnic group, they want to kill a bunch of people. They stated this on the Georgia Guidestones, by the way. And there's some other stuff I can go into that's real heavy, but he did an episode where he uncovered and showed how they had these plans. The cabal was planning like a major false flag, like another 9/11 type of event. And that episode was banned. It only aired once, was removed by Homeland Security, I heard. And I also heard, I have a private source that says many of these fake shootings that are happening. And remember, there was a settlement for that Las Vegas massacre. But not saying that all of these shootings are fake, but, you know, not trying to get political here because it's part of politics while they want to pass gun control is they'll have a patsy. But a friend of mine, private source that I have states, I'm still gathering information. It's being ran through Homeland Security that there's a criminal or private group that's going around murdering these people at these schools. And then they'll have a front person that takes the downfalls, like somebody that's high up on psychotropic drugs or something like that. But, you know, it's not a coincidence that these instances are being staged. And to give you more information why this is not a coincidence, remember prior to that incident that took place in El Paso and some other incident in Dayton, Ohio, that happened like right before that, the FBI put out a statement where they were trying to say, and there's good members of the FBI, but you have a criminal side, cabal members, stay behind networks that don't mean the American people well. And they put out a statement saying that conspiracy theorists are being they're trying to say we're responsible or can influence some of these people. And, you know, that's political behind that particular statement, that article that was put out. But I look for what they also said when you read further below, when they said there's real instances that have happened. So they still giving you a leeway to show that there's factual information, but that's the key part of the article that I pulled out. So they want people to believe that conspiracy theorists, don't listen to them, don't listen to people who conspiracy theorists, they flew over the cuckoo's nest, pay no attention. No, conspiracy theorists, people have a tendency to have accurate information. But I want to show you information I go over. That's why I give you guys a lot of sources to don't take my word for what I'm saying, but to look it up and research it. I believe, in my opinion, don't take my word. You will be astonished at what you find, because I'm giving you information that is still online or still on YouTube. Just do a Yahoo, Google search and use different search engines. Just don't use the same search engines, because sometimes other search engines will pull information up that other search engines won't. You see how, you know, I'm showing you how the cabal tries to cover this stuff up. So you guys have a clear understanding of some of these tricks that they're trying to do to suppress the information and keep the general public dumbed down. But a friend of mine has a secret security clearance. I won't say his name to protect his identity, but he said there's a guy that wrote a book about Sandy Hook, which I don't know anything about. I don't know the guy's name. I can't think of it, but he said that from what he learned so far, there's deep state, there's bad actors that are doing some of these fake shootings or false, they also call false flag events, in the name of similar to 9/11, where they gain the hearts and minds of the people, but there was actually a staged event that they're running these through the Department of Homeland Security, and there's bad actors, or I don't know if they're using private mercenaries. He said he didn't know in particular, but they'll have a patsy, like a fall guy, to take the blame. Very similar to Lee Harvey Oswald and the Kennedy incident, but many Americans know Lee Harvey Oswald was not a lone gunman. It was other bad actors. People were involved in that incident. That was a massive cover-up. And they've already done studies and polls that they've taken, surveys, where they know most of the American people knows and believes 9/11 was an inside job and the Kennedy assassination. They've done studies and polls, surveys, and I've even asked people who didn't agree with me politically, and they said, you know, they believe that was staged. So just to let you guys know, by the way, to show you the credibility of powerful information I'm going over. So to further move on, to go over more high-powered information, to look up this important information, the topic of this video is important information schools and universities never teach or won't teach or go over. I'm going to go over it more in depth. If they do share some stuff in economics about the Federal Reserve, but I'm going over stuff that's more in depth. Those in the general public or regular U.S. citizens who just go to work every day that just, you know, have never heard or may not know, I'm giving you the tools, the skill set to research, to look this up and assure you that this information I'm going over is accurate compared to what a particular gatekeeper and trolls out there are trying to debunk or say. They haven't debunked nothing. I want to tell you, this information is factual. And it's more important than a lot of other garbage that they're spewing, the propaganda they're putting out here. You will see, you will be astonished. Don't take my word. To also go over, please look up America's Book of Secrets. Please look up America's Book of Secrets. That was an older show, is no longer being aired anymore. But you want to look up the episodes. You might be able to find some of them on YouTube, by the way. Some people have uploaded. Can't say you'll be able to find, but every single episode was phenomenal, in my opinion. Goes over a lot of high-powered informational things that will will back up what I've gone over already. When you watch it, you have to connect the pieces together. Also look up America Unearthed. There was an episode they did on the New World Order with the forensic geologist Scott Walter. It aired December 7, 2013. There was a friend of mine, good friend of mine, because this gets into his discipline. Where he shared this with me. He's into survival, and he shared this with me some years ago. He used to stay at a different place. He brought me over one night. Guess he had the DVR where he saved it. To show you guys, I'm a humble person. I don't know all this information myself. There's also millions of other people that know this information to be accurate. So I'm showing you accuracy of the information I'm going over, which shows credibility. Because once again, there are those that will try to accuse us of being conspiracy theorists. But to give you guys a background, how did I find out about this? A good friend of mine shared this because he's into like the survival, which gets into outdoors, that gets into archaeology, geology, that kind of cross references, and he likes a lot of sci-fi stuff. These are personality archetypes, and he shared this information with me without saying his name. There was an episode called America Unearthed. It was a New World Order episode with forensic geologist Scott Walter. It aired December 7, 2013. You want to look up and see if you can find that. If somebody uploaded it on YouTube, or try to order it, find out which station it aired on. If you can order the DVD, I highly recommend it. In this particular episode, they investigated the Georgia Guidestones, and that's what I went over earlier, and the so-called mystery surrounding the Denver airport, which I was just told recently by a co-worker who had to travel through the Denver airport. He said they removed those murals, but he said he didn't get a chance to travel through that particular part of the airport. He said it's so large that there was a particular section he was told that part was in, that they allegedly removed some of the murals. Because see, they want to try the cover-up thing, like the Pizzagate stuff. When people went down to that place in DC, Comet Ping Pong Pizza, they removed some of the photos and images they had to show you. That's when the cover-up starts, because they want to suppress you guys. They don't want you guys to know this information, as well as that other information I discussed with that private clandestine organization I attended. But you guys see, I just want to show you, if I start a Patreon account, I'm going to give you guys action-packed information that will be well worth the donations or money spent for you guys. You decide to support me if you can. Appreciate you. You know, I still do videos and stuff for those who can't. But just to show you, that's like a sneak peek at how in depth I'll be able to go. Now, one last thing I want to go over with that private clandestine operation I attended some years ago. The difficult part that I go through, and I appreciate Currency 365 doing the video when I had went dark, based on that last video that I had did before I went dark. And he talked about, you guys don't know what content creators, what we have to go through behind the scenes. And I want to speak to, it's been difficult because you guys obviously see I'm still on this graveyard shift. I would have liked to leave this a long time ago, and I'm very frustrated, but that's neither here nor there for the time being. Some of us don't have the support network trying to do this information with the private sector. I want to say some of these people who attended this event, they get special perks, or they have a network. Like a lot of people in the DC area, they're more tight-knit, connected. There's different groups in different states, where some people, like the state I'm in, I'm one of a few people, and I tried to find some people, but it's very difficult to find people that are into the same thing that you're into, the discipline, to see the importance of this information. But as I said before, if I could find an elite or someone who's already crossed the window, who's gone all the way through, who's willing to reach back and help me out, you'll have a friend for life. I won't never forget you. You'll have someone that's loyal, so just, it could be a win-win situation. And these are things that has made it difficult, that I could find a way for it to be a win-win situation. But unfortunately, a lot of people are selfish. A lot of people in human nature are conceited. They don't see the importance of this information. And I just want to say, I talked with someone. I won't go into all the details. We were having a conversation, and she stated some of us don't have a support network trying to do this information with the private sector, and this makes it difficult, and other things. So I just want to show you, that's why You know, to answer the question, some of you all asked me, why am I still in this situation that I'm in? This information is high level. It's not impossible, but they set some roadblocks in the way, by the way. Okay, it looks like some other people jumped in the chat. Infinite Wave says, thank you always for your information. All as well. Appreciate you, Infinite Wave, for joining. The Lady Tech says, I have a school for things like this, by the way. Okay, excellent. She says, let's collab. Okay, cool. You can send me an email. Let me know. I'm curious, interested. You can shoot me an email at dorsey'sresource2017@gmail.com. It's dorsey'sresource2017@gmail.com to repeat it. And that's for serious inquiries only. Be looking forward to your email, Lady Tech, in response to the chat section. I would definitely like to hear, you know, so feel free to shoot me an email. That's Dorsey's Resource with the S, all together as one word, 2017@gmail.com. That email specifically, I look forward to hearing. Thank you for joining. So let me see if I've gone over everything so far. That was the last tidbit that I went over that I had planned for this video. I want to thank you guys for joining me. Appreciate you. Lady Tech says she's got it. Appreciate you as well. Once again, you're joining Dorsey's Resource. I'm your host, John Dorsey. You can follow me at Dorsey's Resource on Facebook. I'm on Twitter at Dorsey's Resource. I'm on YouTube, obviously, of course. I'm also on minds.com. I haven't been on there as much, but I do post. I have posted a few of my videos on minds.com, where the algorithms are better. It's not, someone shared with me, it's not as heavily censored as YouTube, or as bad, I would say, as the way YouTube is, because they want to suppress this information from getting out. But Minds is like for open, it's fair for content creators. And that's true liberalism right there. You know, true freedom of speech, by the way, because there are those who preach freedom of speech, but they're actually authoritarians. And I want to say minds.com does an excellent job. And there's others, many others out there, other platforms that I can join. So I'm working on to still get you guys the information, also as well as the Patreon account, as I went over to reiterate. But I'm also on Instagram. I forgot. I'm gonna have to unlock the Instagram account, because when I went dark for the time being, I ended up setting it to private. So my Instagram is Dorsey's Resource _2019, 2017 or 2019. I think it's Dorsey's Resource 2019 at Instagram. So anyways, I'll have down the road, I can post the link anyways. But the main platforms, you can find me, of course, on Twitter at Dorsey's Resource. I'm on Facebook at Dorsey's Resource, of course, on YouTube. Thank you all for joining me. I appreciate you all. And until next time, you all have a blessed and safe and prosperous evening. Take care.